and welcome back to another video. So I'm gonna quickly preface this video saying that the sketch that you're about to see isn't related to probably the thumbnail that you saw before clicking on this video. Now that's just gonna be the first like 2 minutes of this video. The rest will be the painting of whatever you saw in the thumbnail. So reason being is that this sketch was supposed to be of Wanu, and it was initially the sketch that I had intentions of painting. Now the reason why I didn't end up doing this painting was because of poor planning. So the Arteza Sketchbook is actually, it's like around A5 size, so it's like 5.5 by 8.3 or something like that. Maybe it's 5.3 by 8.2 inches. But because of that, when I was transferring the sketch to my paper, I didn't realize that my paper is only 5 by 7, so I typically like to paint on 5 by 7, and the reason being is because it's just a lot of the paper size that I have, like my pre-cut Strathmore papers is also 5 by 7, so I just cut down the hot press paper, which I was planning to use today, to paint this chibi. So he didn't fit on the paper, and because I'm lazy to scan this sketch, print off the sketch, and then transfer it to tracing paper either by printing it off or by hand sketching it back onto the watercolor paper and stuff. But I was too lazy to do that, so I decided to take the intended tracing paper. I decided to draw on it with the same ballpoint pen that I'm using here. So here I'm using two ballpoint pens. So the light blue one for the initial sketch, and then the dark blue one for just some tight sketching, rendering, a little bit of outlining. So here's the actual painting that I'm going to be doing. You can still see that there is the tracing paper underneath. So as I'm removing the tape, you guys can just see what kind of sketch is underneath, which is basically using the same Inkjoy ballpoint pen in light blue, sketching on top of that tracing paper, and then using a permanent Sharpie marker to go over it. Now the reason being is because the Sharpie marker is just black, really dark, and just, you know, it's just opaque. It's just thick and dark. So I decided to use that so that my light pad can shine under it and it could show through onto my hot press watercolor paper. And that's how I got to this point. So this is actually the painting portion of the video. So as usual, I'm using my watercolor paints, which is majority of my Holbein paints. There's a few M.Graham&CO, a little bit of Grumbacher Academy, and I believe one Winsor & Newton Academy paint, I believe. So yeah. So here I'm using hot press paper because I wanted to give it another go. So similar to, I think, two videos ago, I used gouache, and that's because usually I don't like using gouache just because gouache is a medium that I have difficulties using. So I decided to also use some hot press paper. So I've used hot press paper on 2 occasions. One was because I bought a huge sheet of hot press paper at the art store back when I was in university, when I was picking up some paper for printmaking, and I wanted to try hot press paper because I've seen so many artists use it and I love the results of it. So I decided to cut it down to these weird, I think 5.5 by 5.5 squares, and I was going to use them for, you know, testing and some painting and stuff. But the painting that I did with watercolors on that paper didn't turn out well, and I always blamed the paper because it had these little fibers sticking up from it, and I just didn't like how the paint dried on the paper. But the second time I used it was for a gouache painting, like a previous gouache painting video that I've also recorded on this channel, which is the one with S. Coops kind of hugging June from the back. So I figured that if I can't use it for watercolor, maybe I'll use it for gouache. But because I don't like using gouache, I haven't really touched hot press paper in over a year. So I decided to use it for this one, but I am using a little bit of a different hot press paper. This one is, if you saw on the little flag above before, it's the Strathmore hot press paper that's pre-cut to 8 by 10 but I did cut it down to 5x7, and then I have like 2 1-inch pieces that I use for like swatching. And for the most part, because I have the little Wonu painting in front of me, I quite like it. There's definitely some learning curves with using this paper compared to hot press. I really do like how the paint lays on it and how flat it is, but I feel like when I'm applying paint, it feels just really dry. But in general, I was able to layer and like mix paints together quite nicely, like even on the paper, which I really liked. But I think I probably will stick with cold press, but hot press, I'll use the remainder of my hot press papers and maybe even try doing a larger illustration on the 8x10, because I would like to get back into doing some larger watercolor illustrations like I did, I think almost 2 years ago. But because of these newer videos, I believe a lot of you guys probably don't even know which watercolor illustrations I was talking about, but that's okay. Do let me know what kind of other videos you like to see in the future. I would like to do more painting videos and sketching videos. But yeah, I had quite a bit of fun painting this one of Wonu. Kind of the reason behind me wanting to paint this. So if you guys don't know who Wonu is from 17. He's just a member of 17, and he is my bias. Which means he's my favorite member from 17. So I do enjoy drawing him a lot. I tend to draw 2 leaves on top of his head, or like a sprout, just because of a kind of a habit of a way to identify who I'm drawing, kind of, but also like a way to stylize things. He's a little derpy looking, like the painting, not him himself. But yeah, this look is from at the time. So I'm probably doing this 2 weeks in advance. So it's from the Mafia, or like Don't Lie, from Going 17. But it's the preview from the last episode of Don't Lie. So there was a preview of him doing a weird dance, but he's wearing this adorable navy blue V-neck sweater with a white turtleneck, and his hair is just down. It's styled very like simple, and then he's wearing little round glasses as he usually does. And I really like when Wonu has like simple looks, but I also adore when he wears turtlenecks and sweaters, so this is a bonus. But I also love when he wears blue. I think other drawings or like sketches I've done of Wonu on this channel, he's mostly wearing like a navy blue, and that's kind of like my go-to outfit that I draw him in. Other than the dingo outfit where he's wearing like the suit with the bow tie and like the white gloves, I think this is my favorite outfit to draw him in now. So yeah. Yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of outlining now that I have majority of this painted. I had a lot of fun doing this sweater actually. So the video that you guys are looking at is a little bit more saturated and a little bit lighter than what he actually looks like. I'm gonna try my best to make the thumbnail as accurate as possible, and I do apologize with all the lighting changes. I thought I found a good setting for my webcam, but because I was using majority of daylight, the clouds and the sun were not cooperating, so oftentimes it gets a little dark and then gets really bright and gets a little dark, so it was hard for me to continuously change it while I was painting. But yeah, another thing that I do recommend if you use watercolor paper in general, but I feel like it's more important for hot press paper just because there is no texture really on hot press paper. You can see that near the bottom of Wonu's sweater at the very edge of the paper, there's like these little almost like bumps of patchy area, and actually that's because if you saw early in the video, my fingers are always laying at the bottom because I didn't want to tape off the bottom portion because of his body and his sweater actually touched the edge of the paper. So I only was able to tape the parts where there was only white and I knew I wouldn't be painting. So I had my fingers sometimes pressing down on the paper, making sure that, you know, the paper doesn't really lift when I did some big washes. And for the most part, I think the oils from my fingers did transfer. So when I was laying down, or at least trying to lay down some flat washes, it definitely didn't want to sit on top of those places. But if you do a little bit of scrubbing and layering on top, it does go away. So, but that's just something to look out for when you're doing paintings in general, especially if you're doing watercolor paintings, because oil and water don't mix. So please make sure that your hands are clean and try to not like paw at your whole painting with your hands, so that you guys don't end up with a lot of mysterious little oily spots on your painting where water doesn't want to sit. As usual, I'm going to be using my white gouache to do the last little highlights, me kind of cleaning up his mouth or his little smile, and just outlining the sweater, his hair. I think I did the rim of his glasses. But yeah, so in the speed paint, I didn't do his ring, and because it just totally slipped my mind. For some reason I thought, you know, I'll put the ring, like it'll be behind where his fingers are, but I think if you do this, I think you can actually see a little bit of his ring if you can see the top of his pinky finger. So I do add that in the end, but it is not in the video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Hopefully I can do a few more watercolor paintings and illustrations more in the future, because I really do enjoy painting, more so than some other things I've been doing on this channel. But like sketching and watercolor are more or less my priorities. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. I had a lot of fun painting this and testing out hot press paper. So hopefully in the future I'll give hot press paper another go. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next week with another video. Bye!